Hello, hello, hello. Welcome
Hello,
to Wellness Wednesday.
everyone.
How
Today is
are you?
Wellness Wednesday. I know you know what today is because when we pop up, it's like, what? Today must be hump day. Hi, Crystal. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You look great. You look great. Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Always running around on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are hectic, but they're good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good day. It's a good day.
Mm-hmm. I
Just
love our
before
podcast.
we get started, I would like for everybody to keep my family in prayer. My uncle passed away last couple of weeks ago of a heart attack while he was driving. You guys, he's my father's only brother, and I decided not to go to his funeral because of due to the weather. And so they're having his memorial today. So if you think about us anytime today, just keep us in prayer. He was my father's only brother. He's the last of my father's generation, and I'm feeling some kind of way, not being there. One, and then two, just him being gone is the last connection,
Mm-hmm.
on my father's
Mm-hmm.
side. And so anyway, just want you guys to keep us in prayer.
Yeah.
Um, and he didn't hurt anyone when he was driving and had his heart attack. It was a one. I think he just pulled over or whatever, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like a crash, which was a blessing. So that was a good thing. But yeah, please keep us in prayer.
Yeah.
So Miss Crystal, you know what we do, honey. You know what we do. We always start off first with you telling us your amazing testimony because it's so amazing.
Well,
Um,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Well, first, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. And,
Thank you.
I've been thinking about you all this like week and
Thank
last
you.
week and stuff. So just wanted to say that. But yeah, so I'm a holistic health coach and a herb specialist. And, the reason I do this because, when I was 18 years old, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. It's an inflammatory bowel disease. And I had a flare up then and a flare up when I was 24. And both times I lost over 30 pounds in a month. I couldn't absorb my nutrition. I got really, really sick. When I was 24, it was a lot worse. I stayed in the hospital for about 8 days. And the doctors were talking about doing chemo. They were talking about being on medication for the rest of my life. They were talking about possibly doing surgery. And I was 24 at this time. And that's something that that wasn't the answer for me. I said,
Right.
I don't think so. And so, when I was 18, I did find our naturopathic doctor actually, and Dr. Inga Wetzel. And, she taught me some things and I got better. And that's how I was well. And then when I was 24, I had that flare because you know what? I didn't take things seriously. I did change my diet a little bit. I did do a little bit of things, but I still wasn't, quite there. I was young. Like, why do I need to do this? Um, so when I was 24, when I got sick, really, really sick that time, um, my daughter was like 1 to 2 years old in that time. And I was divorced at that time. I was a single mom and things were rough. And I said, I have to be there for
Mhm.
my daughter. So I went to Dr. Inga and I said, I've got to heal. I was like, whatever they're talking about, the doctors, that's not the answer for me. I've got to learn now and I've got to put everything into it. So I like studied under her for a long time and I changed my diet and lifestyle for good. I started doing more and more. I still changed my diet and lifestyle to make it better today. And you know what? I keep feeling better and better. I feel better now at 33 than I did when I was 18 and 24.
Okay. That's
So,
saying a lot, you guys.
and I'm not
That's
on
saying
any
a lot.
medication. Yeah, and I'm not
Yeah.
on any medications. I only do herb supplements and look at my diet, lifestyle, nutrition, all that kind of stuff, and all that. So the reason we do this is because we know if like I can help my body and Kathey can help her body with just natural supplements, herbs, and lifestyle changes, that we can help other people. So that's why we do Wellness Wednesday, because we want to share holistic health with you guys. It's a non-invasive way of doing things, no procedures. You're really just looking at the nutrition and the whole body. And we look at body, mind, and soul, emotions, and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited too for today. So I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah. Well, today we have a special guest, but we're not going to bring her on yet because we have a caller, you guys. We have
Oh,
a caller, and she has a question that she wants to ask the crystal. So if you could please give us your question, Miss Caller, that'd be great.
Hi, I got a question for you.
Hi.
In the morning, previously I had an accident. Now in the morning when I get up, my feet hurt the floor when I first stand up in the morning. What could be contributing to that pain?
What that is usually, one is a lack of minerals. It could be having too much sugar or carbs in the diet. You want to get more omega-3s in the diet. Maybe you might have to do some supplementation, because a lot of times, sometimes we even eat the way we eat. We eat really well, but we still have issues, and it's because we're not really getting it from our complete diet. So sometimes we need to look at alkalizing, because the body is definitely acidic. If it's feeling pain in the heels, the feet, it could be neuropathy from diabetes. I would ask your doctor, get maybe some tests run just in case, but most likely it's just due to an acidic pH, and you just need some minerals and maybe some enzymes to help absorb those minerals. Maybe you're not breaking things down enough.
And I would like for you to please add Miss June to this, because June could totally help with the emotional side. So Miss June, hi.
Hi.
I know that I'm throwing you in the fire, but we have a young lady on the line who has a question about having her feet hurt in the morning, and as she's getting up, and you might have something emotional for her as well with that ailment.
Yes. Well, emotionally, it could be that there may have been trauma where you feel like maybe the rug was pulled out from underneath you, and you feel like you can't take another step and you can't go any further. And so sometimes when you step, just taking that step is also emotional, and being able to get some healing for that may be part of what Crystal is, just add that combination together of alkalization and some of the supplementation she's mentioned. And of course, being seen by your practitioner would also be helpful and give another clue for that. But yeah, I would say emotionally, maybe get some work, get some help as far as being able to deal with maybe something emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we can help with all those things for sure. If you want to give us a call later, we can go on a deeper level with you and look at some things if you need to. If you have any more questions, we can definitely go over. Yeah. Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was great. Right. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. And we actually have another question here from Annie S. She says, can you recommend anything for fibromyalgia? And right there, I can also say that is also a diet and nutrition thing right there. Usually a lot of our problems contribute to eating too much sugar and carbs in our diet. So that's one thing that we want to start eliminating, because sugar is the #1 thing to cause inflammation, and sugar is the hardest thing to give up because it's so addicting. It's 8 times more addicting than cocaine, and it lights up the brain like cocaine. And you wonder why it's really hard to give up sugar, and it makes our body acidic. And that's
I was just about to say that.
It strips away those minerals, and that's why we start having mineral deficiencies and enzyme deficiencies. So that's one thing that you can do in your diet, and make sure you're getting plenty of water to drink, so you're hydrating your cells and flushing out those toxins, that you're getting rid of. Eating more greens in your diet can help. That helps to alkalize. And then if you have any more questions, Annie, you can always contact us on our website at naturalhealthhub.square.site. All right.
Now, Miss June, I'm so sorry that I threw you into the, under the bus like that, but I knew that you had something to contribute to that question, because that question also could have, like you said, tied into the emotional side, and that's what you do. And so I just wanted people to know, first of all, June, let's start off with your testimony. Let's start off with why you do what you do as well. How did you get into this? And then go into what we're going to speak about today.
Well, if you get onto my website, you might be able to read a little bit more about what I did and how I began. And it's just healthconnection.org. As a child, I was raised in an area that was up in the mountains along the Rio Grande River, and ate organic.
Beautiful, basically. By the way. That
Yeah.
sounds gorgeous
It is.
to have grown
It
up in
is.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So my mother was a nurse. She was a nurse. And so she was able to always, bring about some kind of healing, whether the dog was sick or whether her children were ill. If we were sick, she'd say the first thing she'd do is she said, well, we're going to drink a little baking soda water. And I think, oh gosh, that's terrible. But what she was doing is she was alkalizing us.
Mhm.
And when she brought that alkalization forth, all of a sudden, voila, we were well. So kind of doing that. And then I used to spend a lot of time looking over her manuals. And what I did is I actually gathered the neighborhood children together once a week, and I would teach them what I learned. And so I was always very much drawn into that. And then having a condition myself, which I didn't know I had, my husband said, you should go get a blood test. And I thought, moi, get a blood test. I eat right. I don't eat bad things. I'm not a sugarholic. I thought I was like Crystal just said, you may eat right, but there's something still missing. And so I went in and got a blood test, and the doctor said to me, because your diet as well, I'm going to put you on this natural. And it was my thyroid was out of balance. And so that was kind of another way I got into the journey with, to wellness. And I ended up working even for a doctor, a chiropractor who looked at me one day and she said, I really need to teach you more. And she was a holistic practitioner. And so she began to just nurture me and work with me and help me. And, so I've always been interested in it. I thought it was really awesome. And then living in the area we live in, we call it what's called remedios, which Crystal may or may not know what that means. It's a remedies. They're remedies. So people, pick their own wild vegetables, alongside the riverbeds or up in the mountains, and they knew what to do with it. And then they put it together, and then you would have healing would begin. So it was just interesting. So I was always very, very drawn to that.
So June, you have a leg up on us. Like, we're in the city. And so you grew up around herbs and flowers and earth.
Yeah, a lot of dirt. I ate a lot of dirt.
The closest thing to earth for me was asphalt. I mean, we played in the street. I'm such a city girl. To ground myself, it's like, what? Sit on the ground? What are you talking about?
I love nature. I
know. I think it's amazing, and I'm learning. But that's not how I grew up. That's not what I know. And so, June, you were totally surrounded by not only beauty, but the actual earth. That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing. Okay, so today's topic, you guys, I think I'm going to let Crystal explain to us what we're going to do today.
Oh, okay. Well, June is going to be talking about healing a fractured heart. And I think we're going to get into deep emotions with trauma and triggers and maybe even some conditioning that we've had over time, because a lot of times, over the years, we're all conditioned through something, right? And it goes down from generation to generation. And sometimes those things can bring trauma in our lives. And it can, and when things come up later in our life, it keeps bringing up triggers.
And I was just about to say, we don't even realize it a lot of times. I'm sorry, Crystal.
No, you're fine.
There, but we don't even realize it. A lot of times we don't know that we're being triggered. We don't know that we've been conditioned. We don't know why we're doing this and that. And emotionally, there is an element to every emotion, and we're going to delve into that today. But a lot of times we don't understand what's going on with us because it's something that we have suppressed in our memory when we were little kids, things like that. So go ahead, Crystal. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So we're going to dive deep in those emotions today.
See why I do most of the talking, you guys know.
And why it causes anger and anxiety, worry, fear.
Exactly.
And I want to say one thing though about fear. Just remember that fear is just resistance. And a lot of times on the other side of fear, that's where your breakthrough is. That's where your breakthrough is. That's where you get your miracle. So I'm excited for June to talk more about it. She has a nice little slideshow she prepared to show people about emotions. So I'm excited. And I just want to give a good shout out to Savage of Life for tuning in, Annie S, Perspective Speaking, You know, all of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we really do appreciate you. So, by the way, are we ready to dive into this
Yes,
conversation?
please do. Let's do the first slide, Miss June. Did you
Right.
have anything to say before we got into that, though?
Oh no, I think you're right on with everything you're saying.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah. So,
All right.
as you know, I work with a lot of emotional healing. Have always seemed like that was just something that my husband calls me Mother Confessor. He said
Mm.
people tell you things they wouldn't tell a priest. And so he said, they tell you things like I'll walk into the grocery store, and by the time I walked out of the checkout line, I've already known somebody's whole life,
Yeah.
without even asking. They just feel comfortable
Mhm.
sharing. And so it's a gift, it's a gift.
Yes.
There's a scripture that came to my mind when you were talking, Kathey, and it says, and it's talking about, and even with Crystal, where it's talking about how you sometimes respond to things a certain way. And the reason we respond to them that way is because we were taught that behavior,
Mm.
or it was something that was just deep in our DNA. It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
So it can be a trauma, and it can also be a trigger that is in your mother or your grandmother or your great grandmother or your great grandfather, and we don't know why we respond the way we respond to things.
Right.
And their
June,
vows, yes,
that is so important for African Americans, and I'm
yes,
about to start crying because it's really it goes deep with us.
hmm
People feel like our race doesn't do what it's supposed to do because of we should just get over it.
right,
And that's not the case, you guys. It cannot be the case. If we could just get over it, we would have gotten over it. So it is truly, truly, truly so embedded in us. What has been perpetrated upon us for centuries. So, if you knew the battles that we deal with on a regular basis, even in 2022, you would understand what our forefathers went through all the time. And I read something so deep the other day. I don't even want to bring it out because it's so amazing, but it was saying I am a product of a person that made it over the sea in a crowded, rat infested, disgusting ship. And I am a product of a person that went through slavery, through beatings and rapes. And I am a product of a person who has survived all this stuff. Me, I am that product of that person. How dare I give up now?
right.
No way can I give up now because my forefathers went through all of that and I'm still standing. And they went all of that so that I can stand. So all of you African Americans out there who people are telling you to get over stuff, it is embedded in us. All of that is embedded in us and it's still being perpetrated upon us. It hasn't ended. It hasn't stopped. So that is so important. It is in our DNA. The good and the bad is in the DNA, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We are still these people that can get over what we can get over. And no, you can't just do it. That's what June's here for. That's what Kathey's here for. That is what Crystal's here for. There are emotional attachments, you guys, to everything that we deal with on a regular basis.
Mm.
Yes. Thank you, Kathey.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
I just want people to know that.
And see,
Thank you
we're
for sharing
each,
that.
like my childhood and my DNA is also part of survivors of the Inquisition. So, we're here survivors also.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people like that. So there's a scripture that I kept hearing in my head a little while ago, and it says, the fathers ate the sour grapes, and the children's teeth were put on edge. So we are still tasting that from
Mm.
then. So we still have that trauma. We still have that vows or covenants that were made way back then that we're still walking out and don't even understand why we respond to things the way that we respond to them.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? So you know
I
why
also
you're
want
here
everybody
today.
to know that June is also an iridologist, you guys. She's also does iridology. She is a master at it, by the way. So I want you to know that when she starts bringing that out, that's what that you'll understand who June is. She's the one that we go to for those things. So go ahead, June. Let's go with the first
That's
slide.
okay.
Right, all
That's
right.
okay. And yeah. So it's really healing a fractured heart. So when you have a fractured heart, how do you get to the place where you can be healed? And how do you even know you have a fracture in your heart? I went to a woman one time and was asked to go and test her, and she lived in another city. And I remember going over there and they said, she'll be here shortly. She's at a funeral. So when I tested her on the hand cradle and found out that didn't know anything about her, never met her before in my whole life, didn't know how close the person was that had just passed away. When I tested her on the hand cradle, it showed up that she had a heart condition,
Mm,
physical manifestation from an emotion. This woman
wow.
was an athlete, a runner, ate well, wasn't overweight, just everything was just like the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
But because of the death of her friend, she came, and when she came to me and I tested her, it showed that she had a heart issue.
Mm,
So sometimes we just put a Band-Aid on it and then we just go on. But many times things will manifest from an emotion to something physical.
Well, you know what? Can I say this too?
Yes, you may say whatever you like.
That Crystal, remember how I told you how I'm always so frustrated that African Americans has such a bad case on every ailment that we get, well, now it's beginning to make sense to me. The reason why we have such hard times with diabetes and with all of the stuff that we talk about on a regular basis is because there's an emotional attachment to it.
yeah.
Yes.
Generationally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Duh.
And it's a trauma, and they're traumas. They're traumas.
So many traumas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what happens we had one like we had ours, you can look at the heart, and the heart can be cut in half.
Mm,
And on one side is what we call our personal DNA. And that's when Kathey gets up in the morning and jumps in the shower, gets ready, puts her lipstick on, does all her routine. So everybody sees Kathey and say, there's Kathey. She always has a big smile on her face, right? That's your personal ID. But what happens is we have fractures on the other half of us. And what
Mm.
happens is we grow up and we leave the fractures behind, and they've never been healed.
Yeah.
So enough said on that, because that's a deep subject.
yeah.
So
But
deep.
yeah, it's very, very deep. So let's look at the first slide, and we're going to talk about, it says, most of us see the importance of healing our own wounds, especially those stemming from early childhood. A few of us understand that we've picked up less than desirable things from our bloodline, and then we end up with, we need to address these. Fewer will still understand inherited trauma, and that's what we're going to look at today,
Wow.
which we already kind of sort of did. So you can
Wow.
go to the next. Yeah, we've already done that.
Yeah.
And so I know you're in this, all of you, right? We're all in this together.
Actually,
right,
that's why I like the diversity that we have, Crystal.
Yes.
That's the
Mm,
reason why I love our diversity, sweetheart.
mhm.
We're not one-dimensional at all.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I called myself multifaceted healer, because we go into many different areas and we all approach it differently. So let's
Yep.
look at the next slide, and it's on trust. So this one, I look at it like a kind of like a driver's license. When somebody breaks a trust, then what happens is you have to prove yourself to be able to get it back.
Oh.
So it could be somebody that maybe drives drunk, or their license has been revoked for different reasons. And then they have a period of time that they have to prove themselves that they can be trusted to drive again. Trust is a little deeper than that, but that's kind of just a way to kind of look at it. And it's a common thing among people, yet it's hard to give away to anyone.
Mm.
Trusting someone is giving them a token of yourself. It's like saying, here's my heart. I trust you with my heart.
Very
Once
true.
trust is crushed, it will be hard to regain it. A person with a broken trust will always live their life full of doubts for anyone and anything they ever have. So if there's trust and there needs to be trust somewhere. So, we can always trust that God is there. We know that he's not going to move.
Yeah.
We know that he's not a man. We know that, that everything he says is true.
Yeah.
So we know that that would be the first connection that we need to make, is that we need to be connected to him, because he's the only one we can truly trust.
In all honesty, to me, trust is deeper than love.
Yes.
I can love a person all day long, but if you break your trust with me, the love is not even.
So it's this picture, it's saying the picture where it shows, it's almost like this concrete thing that you said, I really, really trust you. And then they broke it. And when you put it back together, it's always going to have that crack.
That's right.
Okay, let's go to the next one. So betrayal. This one's interesting because betrayal has a baby, and the baby's name is bitterness. So when we go through betrayal, if it's not healed, if it's not taken care of, and that's when you can, let me just talk to you real quick about forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that people say, well, I can never forgive that. I cannot forgive that. And that's okay to say that. But when we forgive, all you're doing is you're saying, I'm standing out of the way. I'm no longer the judge of this.
Right.
So then you're allowing God to take care of it. I'm no longer the one that's going to deal with this. You are. And so when you step out of the way, it doesn't mean that what they did was right. It doesn't mean you're giving it permission to do it again. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It doesn't mean any of that. It doesn't mean you need to go visit with them and spend your whole day with them. It just means that you let go of that. You let go of that thing. I'm working with a lady right now that she hasn't been able to lose like 20 pounds. And she said something very valuable to me the other day, and she's all of a sudden she lost 20 pounds. Wow. And I said, how did you do that? And she said, I forgave. So she no longer carried that excess, whatever it was that she was holding on to. And she has a hard time dealing with that because she thinks everybody's out to get her.
Another thing we have to,
and betrayal.
We also have to remember to forgive ourselves.
Yes.
We forgive others all day long, but we don't forgive ourselves. And a lot of times it's right here and we don't understand what it is that's happening. But when you forgive yourselves, it's also a freeing up. It's also a lifting up. It's also a heaviness being lifted.
Yeah,
exactly. So that was interesting that she just like, boom, just like that, it came off. So I was like, okay, who do I need to forgive? That's what I thought, first of all. I don't need to lose 20 pounds, but I could always lose those 10 that keep coming back. So, the other part of that file is that those who don't know the value of loyalty can never appreciate the cost of betrayal. Okay, so let's look at the emotions on the next one. Is the next slide. It says emotions stuck in the body. Emotions are complex and hard to define as they are biological responses intertwined with thoughts and feelings. When emotions get stuck in the body, they can cause changes in behavior in addition to physical symptoms. Let's take a look at 5 basic emotions. Where emotions are stored in the body, how emotions relate to the organ networks, and emotions are connected to the organ. So you're going to see how that comes up. So I'll have, first thing I ask someone if they come in and I test them and it says lungs, lungs, lungs. My first question will say, can you talk to me a little bit about a loss? Maybe you've had a loss, like they may have moved, they may have gone through divorce, somebody may have died, they may have, it's always about a loss of some sort. And so their sorrow is stuck in their lungs. And so
I'm glad that you mentioned those different losses, because the losses doesn't always necessarily have to mean a death.
That's right.
It can mean, like you just said, loss of a friendship, loss of a pet, loss of a like you said, a job or something. So you guys, losses doesn't always have to be a loss of a loved one through death. It could be all kinds of losses. And when you start, when you think that way, it's like, oh, there that is. Yeah.
And sometimes you may say, are you sure? And they'll say, no, I haven't lost anything. No, exactly. But it could be that it wasn't yesterday, but it may have been 30 years ago. The other thing that you'll see that reoccurs is your body has a memory. So it
Mhm.
remembers a loss of somebody that may have passed away at that time, or they were going through divorce at that time, or they lost their job, or their pet passed away, or something happened that was traumatic 20 years ago today, or 20 years ago this month.
Yeah.
So what'll if you start looking at that, then and I do treat that and do recommend things to help the lungs and support the lungs. I don't just ignore it because it's already gone from the emotion to the physical. So if
Right.
we can move in that direction and start working with that, as I begin to help that part, whether it's using flower remedies, essential oils, herbs, vitamins, supplements, a hug, sometimes people just need to be held.
That's right.
They just need to be
So
held.
true.
They need a massage. Sometimes they
Yeah.
they need to be touched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's certain things. There was a gentleman that attended church with us for many, many years. He passed away, and he had a son that died in the month of October.
Mm.
Anyway, he walked in one service and his arms were aching, just aching. And I saw the tears just rolling down his face. And I thought, I wonder what's going on with him. He's usually so cheerful. And so I just stood there and I prayed and I prayed. And finally I said, he misses his son and he wants to be hugged by him. So what I did is I lined up the young boys that we had in the ministry and I had them go over there and just hold him. And guess what? It just broke.
Yeah.
Because he needed to be held. He needed to be validated. And sometimes what we do is to say, if somebody dies, we'll just say, oh, come on, you'll get over it. We put guilt trips on people. We put limits on how long they can weep, how long they can mourn a loss. And we should never do that. Never.
Yeah.
Because everybody works through things differently.
That's right.
Well,
And
I have to tell you, you guys know my husband was killed by a drunk driver. And he was killed 28 years ago. 29, it would be 29 this October, by the
there
way.
you go. Yeah.
But I wanted to, what you said about the memory, the body has a memory. Michael died October 1993. And, when we were writing checks, I'd have to write down the check and then the date. And the date would always be, I'd have to physically remember not to write down 1993 as the year. I'd have to, and if I wasn't paying attention or if I was talking to somebody, it'd be whatever the date was, 1993. And people would look at me and like, that's not the year. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. Yeah, that memory is real.
Wow.
It's 100% real. It was that kind of traumatic stamp on my emotions. That 1993 was a traumatic stamp on me. And and sometimes I still have to physically remember it. It's not 1993.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
Crazy.
interesting. You want to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So this was showing you the fracture, in the heart or the disconnect. So joy and love, the emotions of joy and love are associated with the heart. When joy and love are unable to express, it indicates emotional blockage in this area and the body and causes one to have difficulties feeling these emotions and connecting to others in relationships. So, we can use flower remedies to help with this, to kind of go in and just begin to remove those petals, those layers that are so deep and so tender. The heart is so tender. Remember, your heart, it's mind, will, emotion. We have that, which is your soul. It's part of who you are. It's what identifies who you are. That people say, when they would look at you and Kathey, and they say, when I think of Kathey, I always think of how joyful she is and how she brings so much, she lights up the room when she comes in. That's your DNA, right? But then there's another part of you that's still hurting and wounded and, hasn't fully, completely been healed, but will.
And don't know how that looks and don't know how that feels. And I have no idea what that experience would ever be, actually.
But it can be, and it will come.
Okay.
You can be,
I'm
and
looking
it will
forward to
come.
that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, yes, yes. And just, grab that and keep it for yourself because that's yours. That is yours. All right. So let's go to the next one. And so worry, where does worry reside? The emotions of worry is associated with the pancreas and the spleen. I like that one. Okay. And those are organ, networks. It is normal to feel an occasional sense of uncertainty, but when it starts to happen more frequently without a known cause, it can indicate emotional blockages. So you can always some people are just like, they're all the time is they just worry, 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 worry. And I know people like that. And I can do that too. I can get myself into a cycle where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've got, wake up in the middle of the night and I'm worried about it. I do pray a lot, so I'm always praying about things. And I would say, well, I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And then, but did I ever release it? I always say, okay, are you listening to what I'm saying? This is what I need to happen. It's not happening, so we kind of go through those types of things too. So then we worry about it because nothing's moving in the direction we want it to go in. Yeah. So we worry about it, but then it can affect your pancreas and your spleen.
And okay, before we go any further, tell Crystal, if you wouldn't mind telling us what the pancreas and the spleen does in the body.
The pancreas has a lot to do with, like the liver, the insulin, and how it's controlling your sugar. It's filtering things. And the spleen,
it produces our blood. Like it keeps our blood,
Yeah. A lot of times when I work with the spleen, I use a Chinese formula, traditional Chinese medicine. And what it does, it helps you it helps your digestive system. It helps anything basically in your gut. Like it helps tighten and tone things when you're working with herbs with that. That's when I think of the spleen. That's what I think.
Well, have you ever heard, and I hear this often, they'll say, oh, so-and-so was in an automobile accident. They had to remove their spleen. And I say, what the heck is a spleen? Well, I just had an experience with my spleen. So I want to give you a little different take on it. I ended up going to eat the week before Christmas at a brand new restaurant. And I ended up getting E. coli. And I was like really seriously bad. Right. And what happened is I just blew up. And then when I finally tested myself, which I was even too weak to even think to do that, I think people around me thought I was going to pass away, and I thought I was too. And what it did is it actually went into, it's the biggest organ that holds lymphs. It's a lymph gland.
Okay.
It's the biggest lymph gland. So when I started working with the lymphs and cleansing the lymphs, then the swelling started to go down and it started to go away. Yeah. It was just interesting. It was I didn't know that. I didn't know that before, other than I know it was a collector. It holds blood. And, I knew all of those things, but I didn't know how important the spleen is. Yeah. So whenever I see the spleen show up on a test, I don't ignore it. I used to kind of go like, oh, well, they're just going to remove it anyway, so it's not a big deal. And I have to worry about that. I wasn't that callous about it, but I would put them on the traditional Chinese medicine spleen activator. Yep. And I would take that. It's also in the meridian of your big right toe. And whenever my spleen would go out or needed assistance, I didn't know what it was. I do now. I would get a red mark on my toe. Wow. On my right toe. And so when I started looking at the meridians, it was in the meridian of the right toe. Wow. So now I do not ignore that, but I went through a lot of lymph gland cleansing, and I did also just went through a lymphatic drainage massage just the other day.
Yeah. That's what happens with a lot of us is that we're not dumping properly. Our lymphatics are so clogged and we're not able to filter out those toxins like we should. And that's also like with your appendix. Your appendix also has lymph nodes in it, and it also filters things. And a lot of times, they say, oh, we'll take your appendix out, fine. But that's it's part of your immune system. That's part of your lymphatics. And it helps to filter out things. And what happens is when we're not pooping, having those bowel movements like we should be and filtering all that out, if we're eating things that are getting stuck and lodged, like popcorn too much and things, it can affect our appendix. And we need to look at our diet.
Right. And I have no appendix. When I had my first
Mm.
son 51 years ago, the doctor decided that I didn't need my appendix. So without permission, he'd removed my appendix. So I guess they used to do that back in the olden days.
Mhm.
Yes. They thought that it was no function to the appendix.
Well, they
Mhm.
said if you have an appendicitis attack, we're just sparing you from that. Although my
Oh,
appendix was healthy.
Wow.
You know, I don't know. It was just really weird. And so, yeah, so it is a lymph issue.
In my opinion, if we're born with it, we probably need it.
You need it, right?
All
All right,
right.
let's go to the next slide. Let's go to sadness. Sadness is associated with the lungs, which we already talked about, and it's a heart organ network, so it's connected to that. If one is unable to express sadness and let it go, this area of the body will suffer, causing loneliness and feelings of isolation. So if we're sad, and you'll see people that sometimes you just walk around them and you just feel the sorrow. There's just so much sorrow. When I went to New York for the very first time, and we were near the place where in 9/11 took place, we were like maybe 4 blocks away, and I began to weep in the bus. I was just weeping and weeping and
yes.
weeping. I felt the sorrow before I even got there. It
Yeah.
was, have you been?
I went to the kids and I went to the tunnel where Princess Diana was killed a year later, and I didn't know, how would I know which tunnel it was?
Yeah.
And I felt it. The hair on me just rose, and I'm like, are we in the tunnel that Diana was killed in? And he said yes. And as soon as I saw that, I saw the pillar. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Interesting.
amazing how that happened.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So we
Yeah,
can feel that. We can feel that. Let's
for
go to
sure.
the next one. Let's go to anger.
Let me go back up.
And I don't want to rush through today, you guys. I want us to go
Yeah.
through completion,
I
if
know.
you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I don't
Yeah.
want to. Okay. I saw the time and I thought, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't want to rush through today.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
fine. We'll complete it.
Yeah.
Okay. In traditional Chinese medicine, the emotion pain of anger is closely related to the liver, the gallbladder, the liver organ network. Therefore, when anger is stuck in this area of the body, one will feel irritable, short-tempered, but can also feel disempowered. So anger sometimes can be what I call a protector. It's a protector. So when somebody just goes like, "Argh," and they just rage up against you, they're saying, stand back, don't get too close. And it's really a protector, like a protector spirit, if you want to look at it that way. And the way I work with that is if somebody has that, or they just snap, it's usually the liver is getting hot. It's just getting really hot. And so when you begin to address the liver and start to heal the liver, you can calm it down. Women that have hot flashes, that's still the liver.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
still the liver. So if you can calm the liver down, then the heat will go away. You know, Chinese believe that the liver is wood.
Yep.
So if you have fire and you have wood, then you have heat, right? So you're hot.
Yep.
So if you can get that tempered, get it tempered, then you're going to find that people are a little bit more calm and more easy to, they're more approachable, but they can be angry. And you can tell when somebody's angry, you say, I'm not going near that. I'm standing back. But if you could help them so that they're not responding to things
Right.
that way, they need to respond and not react, and they're reacting. So
Well,
you
and
want to
anger
help
is
them.
so comfortable for people. Anger is just a comfortable coat. It's like a warm coat that they can put on, because
Right.
anger is so familiar. And it's just a comfortableness to be angry all the time. I know it because I have a sister that's angry all the time. Sorry, sis, but you don't know which sister I'm talking about, so I'm good. I have 3 sisters, so none of you guys know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's like a comfort they live in, and it's like, okay,
It's a protector. It protects them from, it's like they have barbed wire around their heart. So if you touch it, it hurts, right? So they're protecting themselves. So they protect who they are with anger. So it's a protector. It's a
Love you
protector.
guys.
Sadness is a protector. You know, all of the things we talked about are protectors. And so when you can help to get the wall down, then you can begin the healing. You can begin the healing process. And sometimes it hurts sometimes
Yeah.
to admit that that's what it is, or to
Mhm.
allow somebody to go deeper into that area.
It's
Yeah.
hard to surrender sometimes. You have to surrender to yourself
Yeah.
and just allow the things to happen instead of stopping them from happening. When you stop when you stop life from happening and you're like, no, I want it this way, you're going to be stuck in this anger and all this frustration all the time. But if you just allow it, like, okay, be outside of your ego for once, let the spirit take over. You have to let the ego die, and you have to look at, say, why am I really angry? Do I really want to feel this way all the time? You know,
It's
and
exhausting.
it's very exhausting.
Yeah.
And so, you know, sometimes we just have to let that ego die and look outside of ourselves and see what's actually happening, why we're angry, what's triggering us. And you're going to have to, it hurts. It hurts to get rid of anger. It's a lot, and it's a lot of detoxing.
And it's
And
scary. It's frightening not to have it, because then who's going to protect you? If you're angry, then people just leave you alone, and they're not going to touch that boo-boo or that hurt or that wound or that spot that hurts. They're not going to get close enough to help you get healed. So what they're doing is they just stay angry all the time so that you keep a distance. And as you distance yourself from that, then they never get that's whatever that is, that wound or that hurt never gets dealt with, never gets healed.
speaking of anger,
It's
sometimes
building a wall, and when you build a wall, the people are staying out and you're staying in, so there's not a real connection.
Correct.
And they need to break down that wall so we can have a better connection. But go ahead, Crystal. I apologize.
yeah, I know, they're fine. And I was just going to say that, you know, you have to understand that having that anger, it creates an energy blockage. And sometimes the energy blockage can affect us in many ways.
Are you about to preach? She's about to preach, y'all. Go ahead, Crystal, preach.
I don't know about preach, but, you know,
Girl, do it.
anger can affect us in
Go
many
for it.
ways. It can affect
Yes.
us with our bowel movements. We can become constipated because when you're constipated, it's not coming out, right? So that means there is a blockage. You have to understand that's an energy blockage as well. And a lot of times, whether it be anger or anxiety, whatever you're going through, whatever high emotion that you're going through, I always say it sounds silly because most people, I don't think they do it, because if they did, they would understand the flow of it by doing deep breathing techniques, by breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slowly let out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and do that for 10 minutes a day. And what you're doing is you're allowing the oxygen to flow into your body. You're allowing for all that negativity to release as you blow out. And you're allowing the circulation, you're allowing your lymphatics to move, you're allowing blood flow to your brain. You have to understand that. And your nervous system. A lot of times when we have anger or we react to something, fight or flight, it's a nervous response to whatever is happening, and a nervous system response. So when you do that deep breathing, you're allowing your nervous system to calm so you can actually think clearly and actually make better decisions.
That's good.
So,
very good. I love that. Preach it, sister. Okay, now how does all of this tie into iridology? So let's go there.
Let me get that.
So there's
That's
a personality
exciting.
and iris patterns, and there's 4 different personality types based on the way that your iris looks. So I'm just going to read real quick to you. The first one is called the stream, and you can have a combination of one or the other. It's kind of like, you know, when you have the personality trait, you can be dominant, but you can also be organized. And, you know, there's certain things that you can have, characteristics that maybe wouldn't normally go together, but they're going to go together here. So the stream is nice, tight, and straight fibers. So when you look at the iris, that's what we're looking for. It relates to a neurogenic subtype in the iridology. Okay, and it's the positive attributes would be it's intuitive, they're very grounded, they have the ability to nurture and balance others, they're mentally and physically sensitive, They're visionaries. They have abundant physical energy, social skills, strong sense of nurturing, belonging, stability, strength, learn best from experiencing and doing, and they're also perfectionists. Okay, that's the positive end of it. So how do we look at that particular eye and see how do we bring balance from the parts that would be like what you'd call negative? They're slow to change. That's the negative. They're fearful and can be overprotective. They're hurting others or being hurt is one of the negatives, and they maybe don't do it on purpose, but they do it because it protects them. When stressed, they feel helpless, even though, remember, we just said how strong they are. Can become blocked and indecisive. Here's this person that can lead the way and they're in the front and everybody follow me, and all of a sudden they're blocked and indecisive. They're oversensitive and can lead to hopelessness. So there's the negative and the positive. So I can look and analyze an eye and then determine which one of these personality traits that you have. And then there's so much more that's, attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
The
Trust me,
next one-
everybody. Juna's great on that. Like, I do iridology too, but just the basics. She too goes dives
I know,
in.
and I promise I will get to the class. I have it all together. I just need to put it together. And I haven't done it.
I wasn't even going to say anything, June. I wasn't even going to say anything.
I know. She's going like, yeah. No, seriously, my father was ill in the months of he was 91, and he actually passed away on Christmas morning. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And then I ended up getting that crazy E. coli, and I was like at death's door. I'd never been sick like that before in my life. So anyway, I'm back on track, and here I am. Hello, I'm back. Okay, and then the other one is called the Jewel, and its personality traits would be precise, verbal communicators, loves detail, driven to set goals, excellent speaking abilities, can inspire and persuade, excellent teacher and leaders. Guess which one I am? Okay, the Jewel personality is seen in the iris with dots of pigment.
Yeah,
so
let's look at the iris. Which one is it? Is it the one next to the top? The one on top?
It's the one at the, okay, let's see. The Jewel is the one at the bottom right.
Okay. So.
Okay, and the Jewel personality is more of a mental type, always thinking and analyzing. Dominant characteristics, gold or brown pigments indicate the Jewel person
put the eye back up there.
has the ability to take in information visually. This is their mode of learning. They watch, read, and observe things and situations in life. So it's the bottom right.
Gotcha.
And then the negative part of this one, so you're saying how precise and verbal communicators, naturally inquisitive, which is also an attribute. My husband calls it a problem because I asked too many questions. Introverted, can be withdrawn, controlling, not me. Need to be right. Do not like structure unless it's self-created. I want it to look pretty. And then like to have the last word, and fear criticism. So sometimes we won't act because we might be criticized if we do it wrong. It's kind of cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's do the next two, and then you can shower me with questions. Okay, flower is the next one. So flower is, let's see where it's on the chart. Flower is the top left. It looks kind of gray, and it has like all these little top left. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this one is a flower pattern showing as petals and leaves in the iris, and flower personality, its names. The flower type leads with emotions. They react emotionally and experience life with emotions. They like music, pleasant words, auditory instructors. They communicate through gestures, imagery, and very expressive, animated, extroverted. Introverted is soft and shy and social gatherings. So the positive attributes of this person is flexible, spontaneous, full of passion and fire, enjoy being seen, full of creative ideas, joyful to be around, young at heart, easily embrace new ideas or concepts. Okay, so that's that positive. Here's the negatives. Can lose interest quickly. Can anger quickly, blaming others rather than themselves. sometimes lack control, have a fear of being controlled, tend to burn out too soon, and may lack trusting themselves. So that's flower. And then let's look at the last one. And the last one is shaker. Okay, so the shaker is a combination of the flower and the jewel. So the personality is an extremist, and they are action-oriented people. They tend to think outside the box and will have that dog with a bone attitude or tenacity that they're driven forces. Shakers are all in emotion, moving and shaking all the time. Positive attributes of the shaker. They blend emotion and mental attributes, quick at decisions, strong in intuition, love nature and outdoors. They make projects fun and enjoyable, good inventors and explorers. They can make things happen. That's the positive. So the negative would be impatient, dislike, confinement, or systematic control. When excited, they become scattered, can be self-destructive, addictive behavior, can be rude to those that disagree with them. So
can
there
you be all
go.
four? Because I feel like I'm all four.
You can have a little bit of everything. It's just that we'll look at the eye and then we'll see which one it's pointing to. But yeah, I have probably the shaker. I probably have the flower and the jewel. Those two.
Every last thing, negative and positive that you said, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm checking them off, and it's like I don't have enough fingers to continue to check off everything.
You know what else? You know how we talked about the traumas and we talked about the DNA and all that. In your DNA, you could have had others that have different eye types. And so those different eye types, so when you're looking at it, you're saying, yeah, I have that, and I have that, and I have that, but how could I be that? So we'll look at, when we look at your eye, we're going to look to see which one is the most dominant right now, today, for you, Kathey. Open up. So anyway, that's what I have for you today.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love this. This was great. Like,
June, you do bring out tears every time you're on the horn with us. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's okay. It's my pleasure.
I'm always going to remember when you did my iridology picture or whatever. I remember you telling me, I just want you to know that you're not crazy.
You're not crazy.
You're not crazy. Because I got like something from my mom and my dad's side that are both like nervous and some stuff. And she's like, I just want you to know that you're not crazy.
Oh, you have the anxiety tetanic? Yeah. The anxiety tetanic, it's kind of going like it's like when you cut a stump and you look to see the age of the tree through the rings. Well, that's what anxiety tetanic looks like. If I remember, your eye and your mom and your dad all had this whole thing. It was like boom, 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 you know.
I can't win. No, in a mixed iris, right? Is that what you called it? I can't remember because I have like both colors. I don't know.
Yeah, you have a mixed biliary. So what I'm going to do with this, if anybody's interested, I can do the personality traits. I can do that pretty simply and maybe just do a special deal maybe till the end of the month for $35 or something like that.
Awesome.
If anybody wants to just do the personality traits, I can do that. It's not as in-depth as the other one. If they want to do more, then they can contact me and then we can do more, so we can actually look to see if there's a marker in there that's causing, like maybe the first person that we spoke with, we might see that there's a marker in there that's really showing up in the leg area, that's connected to the pancreas. And we can see if those two are together so that you know what to do physically, but then we also know what to do emotionally. So that'll help us to know both parts.
See, that's awesome.
Well, June, I have a saying that I don't look like what I've been through. So I do that on purpose. I don't look like what I've been through.
You are so beautiful. There's somebody I want you to meet. And
is he good looking?
Well, I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant because I'm not always good, just because he's going to be a good friend. That's why. Nothing else.
Yay.
Don't read into it.
Oh, darn.
Well, we are at a full hour today, and I
Yay.
absolutely loved our
I
talk.
noticed you popping things on and off the screen, but I haven't read not one of them. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch our program just to read them, because
I
they
can
were
send it
popping
to
on and
you.
off.
You want me to send it to you?
Oh, no. I'm talking about our comments of the
Yeah,
people that
our comments.
commented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People been loving what
Um,
we're
and I
saying.
think that that's amazing, you guys. Thank you guys so much for doing their comments, because Crystal's able to pop them on and off. And normally we say something about them, but June is so amazing that we don't want to take any time away from what she has to say. I love her gentle spirit. I love the way she talks. It just lulls you into comfort, and that's such an amazing. That's also a gift, by the way.
Right.
So yeah, it's just so wonderful to always have you here. I don't
Absolutely.
mind. I could take an hour and a half with you, June, because that's just how amazing you are. And yeah, you're a great teacher. You're a great mentor. You're a great person to have in our arsenal of wellness, and we're so appreciative of having you with us. Crystal, you're also you know how amazing you are.
Yes.
Black power to you, girl.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
yeah. Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. I mean, we are so appreciative of your time, and I just love learning from you. Like, as you probably seen through the show, I'm just like listening. I'm not saying much just because I'm just like, I'm always intrigued by June. So
100%. Well, you guys, you know that next Wednesday we're going to have another amazing guest. Oh, I can't wait for her either. Also, just know that health is wealth, and if you are green inside, you are clean inside. Okay, thank you guys for being with us this Wellness Wednesday, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye,
all
June.
right. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.